Hello everyone, this is Colin once again. I'm making a response to Venom Fang X's part 2 of the concept of the Messiah, Jewish Messiah, and the feasts. Now, I have to give Sean some credit. His part 1, which I made 3 consecutive parts to in a refutation, and I'll post the link in the description section. The thing is that I'll give him some credit. He actually did a decent job of at least attempting to gain evidence for what he was talking about. This, however, really is a 180 from his previous video. What I mean by that is he really didn't give that much evidence. This is him not even really discussing what the last three festivals are, and instead he has taken upon himself to take all these things out of context, jumble them around, and just put them together how he sees fit. So, for an example, he tries to do a lot of parallels. Now, he he spends almost the entire part of the video, and I felt really bad for him because this took about 5 minutes, almost half of his video, trying to describe to his viewers how a Jewish wedding and marriage is actually conducted and how one becomes husband and wife. Now, in the description section, I'm going to post a link from Judaism 101 that talks about marriage in Judaism and how you do become betrothed to one another. And I have to say that Sean, or Venom Fang X, his understanding of the marriage in Judaism, I honestly don't know where he's getting this from. He doesn't cite any sources. He doesn't even give any, I mean, he just explains it as if this is some sort of matter of fact. I don't know exactly what his Jewish background is, but if you look at the link on in the description section, you'll find, and then you watch his video, you'll find that a lot of the details he described, which I'll explain because he gives New Testament references, um, really do not match up to how marriage is described in this article written by Judaism 101. For an example, he says that in Revelations chapter 3 verse 20, Jesus will knock. It mentions Jesus knocking and on the door, on a door. And he says that apparently once the bride to be's father agrees to the marriage, the husband to be will go down and knock on the door. So he says this is a parallel. He then says that when we take part in the Lord's Supper, that is drinking the wine, and that parallels, the wine that is shared between the soon-to-be husband and wife. Once she's opened the door to accept him as her husband and brings him into the room, and they drink and have a little meal. Then there's a ritual bath, which he says has something to do with baptism. We'll come back to, honestly, if you understand, the earliest Jewish baptism had nothing really to do with marriage. I'm not saying that people didn't cleanse themselves before marriage, but if he's going to seriously parallel baptism, ritualistic baptism, on a theological level to marriage and some sort of marriage bath, I'd say he's totally missed the boat here. And for those of you who have studied the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Society of Qumran, and even understanding ritualistic bathing in Judaism, you'd find that he's kind of mixing up things here. He then quotes Galatians chapter 5 verse 22 and says that we adorn the spirit. And he says this is like, adorning, fresh clothing and things like this for the marriage. He then quotes John 14:2, which says that Jesus would prepare a place for us. And he says that therefore the groom goes and prepares a place for the honeymoon. He then says in John 13:32 that apparently there will be trumpets during his second coming, and only the Father knows when this will occur. And now this is where it gets interesting. He says that this parallels the idea that only the Father, meaning the bride-to-be's father, knows when the marriage will happen, and that the groom goes out in the middle of the night and blows a trumpet. And apparently this had something to do, and again, I'm confused at this point, because what does this have to do with Rosh Hashanah or the day of the Feast of Trumpets, as he puts it. What does this have to do with anything? The only parallel here is that there's trumpets involved. So in the description section, I will post an article that explains the Jewish New Year and what the blowing of the trumpets really symbolizes. I just don't understand how he thinks that because of the trumpeting, and plus paralleling this marriage idea, which he has no evidence for, this somehow is a messianic fulfillment for the Feast of Trumpets, or Rosh Hashanah. He then says in Revelation 19:7 that the church is called the bride of Christ. Okay. Okay. I think that seriously is the only parallel I can really give him that makes some kind of sense. Matthew 25:6, apparently he's saying that Jesus is the groom. I think there's different interpretations for that. If we look at the context, it is a parable, but it's really convenient to say that apparently Jesus is the groom. And Revelation 22:17, apparently the bridegroom, and things like this. More naming and titles. He parallels Revelations 11:3 to the, because there's two witnesses mentioned in this verse that will be like the two witnesses to see the moon on the Feast of Trumpets. Again, I encourage you all to look at in the description section of Rosh Hashanah to see whether this has any sort of parallel mentioned in the article at all. Then he says there's 7 days before the Day of Atonement. Of course, what Venom Fang X neglects to mention is that there isn't just the 7 days, right? There's actually events that occur within the 7 days. So I love how Venom Fang X just ignored those events and just kept going. He says that he parallels Joel 2:16 to verse 17, and 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 9. Again, taking things out of context, it's a wonderful thing to do. I don't see what this has to do with anything. Basically, and then he ends it by saying Zechariah 12:10 and Isaiah 53. He talks about the Messiah. Again, if you actually look at Zechariah 12:10, this is not referring to the Messiah in the context, and I've already dealt with Isaiah 53. I'll put in the description section my links where I refute Venom Fang X's very early videos about using biblical passages, at least the ones he uses, to prove that Jesus is the Jewish Messiah. I'll post those again for your viewing pleasure. Basically, the theme here, ladies and gentlemen, is this. What Venom Fang X, has done is he has taken verses and concepts completely out of context, and I will post links for the last three holidays, Rosh Hashanah, the Days of Awe, and Yom Kippur. And if you actually bother to watch this video, please pay attention to how the Jewish rabbis of this website have actually written these articles to explain what is done during these holidays. And then when you look at Venom Fang X's videos, you find that he didn't even go into detail about the holidays. He just sort of picked up on some minor details and then attached out of context Old and New Testament verses to these holidays to actually try and come up with this argumentation. What I find very ironic is that I am not aware of a single place in Judaism where it is an expectation of the Messiah to do or act upon events or concepts that parallel the great holidays of the Jewish religion. To me, and as I said in my first video where I put a link to the book which I believe Venom Fang X has gotten this argument from, I find it very hard to take him seriously when even the Jews do not consider this part of their theological concepts. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But to my understanding of my study of Judaism, this is such a foreign concept that it only rings a bell to Venom Fang X and to certain Christians that follow his lead. So thank you everyone for watching. Hope this was enlightening for you. Peace be with you all.